What's up, everyone? Today, we're going to have a look at el alfabeto, or the alphabet. This is the perfect starting place for anyone who wants to learn the Spanish language. The alphabet is going to help you pronounce things properly. It's also going to help you spell things properly. And so today's the perfect starting point for anyone who's starting their quest to learn Spanish. And as you can see here, in black, I have the actual letters of the alphabet written. And then in red, what I tried to do is write out sort of phonetically how it sounds. And so what you'll see, for example, right here, in many cases, I've written an actual English word beside it. And so what I mean by that is the letter B in Spanish looks and sounds like the word bay in English. And so now, when I say English, I'm referring to American English. And so perhaps some of you that come from other parts of the English-speaking world, you might not find some of the things I've written in red as helpful. But I'm going to walk through all of these and show you how to pronounce them all. And so hopefully that's going to be helpful for you all. But either way, the alphabet is the perfect starting place for anyone who's trying to learn the Spanish language. And so, like I said, we have the letters of the alphabet, a bit of help with pronunciation right here in red. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the vowels here that you see that have accents over them, because in Spanish we use accents as well. A little key or a little bit of vocab related to the alphabet. And then I wanted to finish with spelling. And while, of course, there's only 6 words up there, what I wanted to do was just introduce spelling or show you how to use these letters sort of in action spelling. And I'll also tell you what these words mean as well. And so, like I said, let's get going with the pronunciations. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through these with you all. And then on the second time around, what I'd like to do is pause between every letter so that you can pronounce right along with me. So I'll say the letter, then you pronounce the letter, and then I'll say the letter, and then you pronounce the letter. And we'll go through it. Again, I'll do that on the second time around. So the first time, I'm going to run through them, and then second time, you're going to join in. A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, E, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Now it's your turn. So I'm going to pronounce the letter, and then I want you to say it after me. And so we'll go ahead and start at the top. A, B, C, Ch, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, E, M, N, Ñ, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And so, again, as you can see, I've written beside these in red, and hopefully these are helpful with the pronunciation. I'm going to walk through those with you all as well, just as a bit of a review. But before I get started on that, I want to bring your attention to this one and this one. And so notice here we have, and this is what I was pronouncing, AJ. And so the double L is a quote unquote letter in the Spanish language. As you can see, that word starts with a double L. And so if you want to say the double L as a letter, you would say ella, right? And so that implies the double L as opposed to elle, which is a single L, right? And so now if you'd rather just say double L in much of the same way we just said, double V in Spanish actually, but we say double U in English, right? If you want to say double L, that's fine. And so that's what I have written here. So you'd say doble L. In other words, you'd just say double L, doble L. And likewise with the double R, you have here in purple R, or my attempt to make it sound like the sound, writing that there. So hopefully that works for you. So I have R, right? And again, you roll the R. And so R implies a double R as opposed to ere is a single R. Now, like I said over here with the double L, if you wanted to do double R, you could say doble ere. And right, in other words, you would just say doble ere, right? And so that's double R. And so instead of R, right, as you start to get more comfortable rolling that R, if you want to instead say doble ere, or you just prefer that in general, that's up to you. And so, like I said, doble L or ella, or doble ere or R. So another one I want to bring your attention to, and notice here I put this in purple and I put ESP. That just was short for España, right, or Spain. And so in Latin America, or much of Latin America, for this letter V, we'd say be, which sounds just like this letter, right? And so be, right? And so they have a very, very similar sound. Now in Spain, and this actually is helpful to differentiate between B and V, you actually have here ube. And so you have be for B and ube for V, right? And so like I said, you'll more than likely hear ube in Spain. You won't necessarily hear that in Latin America. Again, I don't want to, that's a generalization. So, but if that's why I wrote España beside it. And so you have ube for V, and then you have be here. But as I said, at least for me, I say be and be. I don't use ube, but that's just me. But I just wanted to let you guys know that there are, in fact, two ways of saying this letter right here. And so you'll hear them as you travel around the Spanish-speaking world. And so I just wanted to make you aware of that. And of course, this one, ñ, right? That's a tilde there, and that differentiates between the normal in and the ñ, right? And so again, I've used a letter, that letter here, and we'll look at that one when we spell the words you see over there. And so, like I said, let me run through this, and then I want to talk a bit about the accented vowels, and then we'll do some spelling, and then we'll bring it to a close. So, like I said, here we have a, right? Be, say, right? Your English word say, right? Sounds just like the Spanish letter for C. So say. Che, right? Now, here's the thing about this. This is technically a letter, if you will, a letter in quotes, in the Spanish language. There is absolutely nothing wrong with just saying say H, right? So you can say CH, but if you want to say those letters together, the actual letters are che, right? And so that is important to know. And so again, if you were spelling a word out that had C then H, you can say H, and you're totally fine. And so again, moving along, de. So D in Spanish sounds like your English word day, right? Right, or F, right? That's F, so F, hey, right? And you can say hey, or you can say hey. You'll hear that letter pronounced differently across the Spanish-speaking world, some more and some less, right? So hey or hey, either way is fine, right? But again, this letter G is pronounced like your English G, right? And so H, so your H is H. E, I wrote this here because I in Spanish sounds like your English E. And that's a common mistake a lot of language learners will make as they're learning Spanish. They are, as they learn to spell things, they will mistake. If they hear E in Spanish, they're going to think it's the English E, but in fact it's the I. And so anyways, hopefully that wasn't confusing, but I wrote this E there because it's sort of saying, like your English letter E, that's how you pronounce the Spanish I, right? And so hopefully that made sense. Again, the J is jota, jota, right? And that's pretty close to how it sounds. Jota, I threw the W in there. I think that gave us that jota, right, for our pronunciation. Ka, L, so L, right? Doble L, or AJ, of course. We've already talked about that. And then M, N, Inye, right? That Y is giving you that there. So Inye, right? O, right? Notice it's O, not O, but O, right? And so I tried to put something there that would represent that sound. P is like your English word pay, pay. Ku, ku is your Q, so ku, right? Ku. Ere, right? That's your R, ere. And then again, like I said, we have R for the double R, or doble ere. That's up to you. And then the S is like your English word esse, right? Like you write an essay, right? So esse, te, u, right? So we have o, and then we have u, right? So those are added an extra O there for that. And then again, we go back to our V, which is be, right? Be, or ube for those in Spain, right? And so a lot of times when it comes to V and B, we have be grande, like big B, be grande, and then we have be chica, small v, or small b, however you want to say that. But small, big B, small b, or big B, small v, right? And so we're just distinguishing. The best way to think about that is when you want to do be grande and be chica, if you're spelling that, think about this is bigger than that, right? And so the B is taller, if you will, than the V. And so be chica, be grande, right? And so hopefully that's helpful as well. And but if you want to opt for the way that is more predominantly used in Spain, you can go with ube, and you don't even have to worry about that. It already speaks for itself. And so again, coming down here, we've got W, right? You could say W if you want to put a B there instead of that V. But notice that in Spanish, it's a double V, right? A double V. In English, it's double U, but in English, or in Spanish, it's double V, so doble V, right? And then X, right? So the X, so X, and then Y. Now, here's something cool about this letter. When you look, if you were to look it up, you would see the pronunciation like this, right? It's pronounced Y, right? Remember, I is E in Spanish, so Y. So what you're really saying, literally, quite literally, is Greek I. So when you say Y and you pronounce that letter, you are literally saying Greek I. And so I tried to make it a bit more fun, if you will, by drawing that sound out for you. And then Z is zeta, 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 zeta. Hopefully that was helpful with the Z. So zeta, right? So zeta. And so yeah, so those are the letters in the Spanish alphabet with its corresponding sound. And like I said, hopefully that was helpful as far as understanding how the alphabet works. And let me move on over here. And I'm going to start over here with the key. You know what? Let's use a different marker. Let's use red. And so we have the key here, right? There's a couple things. well, technically there's 3. So we've got 1, 2, 3 quick things I want to go over. And so we have, at the top, we have con acento. And so that just means with accent. And so when I start spelling those, you might hear me say, for example, A, the letter A, con acento. And so this would be A con acento, E con acento, I con acento, O con acento, U con acento. And so those are the vowels with accents over them. And like I said, to say, A with an accent, you'd say A con meaning with, and then acento, a bit of a cognate, which means accent. And so the other thing I wanted to bring to your attention was, notice over here, you have I griega, and that A at the end is, griega is operating as an adjective. So it's agreeing with the letter I. And so the letters in Spanish are known as letras, for one, or we're going to just go ahead and put las letras. So, and that means they're feminine. So every single one of these letters, like I, is feminine in and of itself. So we'd say la I, right? And so that's why it's I griega, because griega or griego as an adjective is making agreement with that letter I. And so that's why it's I griega. And so, anyways, I thought I'd bring that to your attention. So like we would say la be, la se, la de. For example, if we were to attribute an article to that letter, the letters, therefore, in and of themselves are feminine as a letter. And so I thought that would be worth mentioning at least. And so anyways, as far as letters are concerned, we have, just like in English, you have uppercase and lowercase. And so here I've just written uppercase letter, lowercase letter. That's all I've written. And I just thought I would put that up there so you have that as well. So you say here, letra mayúscula, letra mayúscula. Notice this A, right, is agreeing with letra. So letra mayúscula. If you were to look up the word itself, uppercase, you might see mayúsculo, right? But when we're using it, again, as an adjective here to agree with letra, that's why it's letra mayúscula, right? And so, again, letra minúscula is just saying lowercase letter, right? And so we can do that, like, for example, if we wanted to, in other words, capitalize or lowercase or things like that. When you're spelling something to someone and you want to tell them it's an uppercase letter, you would say A mayúscula, L mayúscula, whatever letter you want. So that would be letting them know that it's an uppercase letter. And so, again, to conclude, what I wanted to do is spell a few words with you all, and so you can see sort of how that would work, and do a bit of a practice, if you will, with you all. And so I'm just going to run through and spell these so you can see how they're spelled. And with things like this, I'll show you multiple ways of spelling it, like we did over here. So hopefully to avoid some confusion. And so we're going to start here with casa. Casa means house, right? And so it's spelled C-A-S-A. C-A-S-A. Now, as you can see, casa ending with the A makes it a feminine noun. And so if we were to put an article and say the house, for example, we'd say la casa, and then that would become, as a translation, the house. And so while this isn't a lesson on articles, just thought I'd throw that up there. And so moving along to carro. Carro means car. Now there's other ways of saying car. There's coche, and I'll just write them up for you. Coche, and there's auto or automóvil, for example. And so those are different ways of saying car in Spanish, but I opted for carro because it's got the double R. And so that allows us to spell a word that has the double R. And you know what? We're going to take out the black marker for that. And so let's spell this. C-A-R-R-O. C-A-R-R-O. Now we'll do it with the doble R. C-A-R-R-O. C-A-R-R-O. doble R, O. And so again, you can see, you can, make your own decision as to whether or not you're going to say R or doble R. I'm just letting you know that, that's you get a little bit of a variety there if you want. And so moving on here to lápiz or el lápiz, right? It doesn't end with an O or an A, but I'm telling you that it's a masculine noun, right? Now, carro, coming back up here, ends with an O, and it's el carro, right? Or the car, if you will. To say a car is un carro, right? Anyways, like I said, this isn't a lesson on articles, but thought I'd throw them up there. And so what I want to focus on is this, lápiz being a pencil, right? And so there you go. We have el lápiz. And notice it has an accent on it. And so let's have a look at how to spell this with an accent. So we go L, A con acento, P, I, Z. L, A con acento, P, I, Z. And so, again, you've got to say A con acento to let them know that there's an accent on it. And so again, same thing here. We have an accent over an A. We have rápido, which means fast or quick, right? And so, or of course, rapid. But, and so before we get into that, notice I said carro and rápido. Now in terms of rolling the R, you roll an R in Spanish when it has a double R or the word begins with an R. And so those are the two times you roll your R's in the Spanish language. So you have carro and rápido, right? So if it's got a double R or the word starts with an R. And so let's spell rápido. So we'd go R, A con acento, P, I, D, O. One more time. R, A con acento, P, I, D, O. How's that? Right? And so let's move along here to llegar. Llegar is actually an AR verb, and we'll get to those in another lesson, but it's an AR verb that means to arrive, right? Llegar, to arrive. And this is actually an infinitive, which just means an unconjugated verb. And so this means to arrive. And so notice here we have the double L, and so I'm going to show you how to do that two different ways as well. So let's do it. Ella, E, G, A, R. Ella, E, G, A, R. Now, you can do that. You can do, again, this way, or you can opt for what we have here, doble L. Nothing wrong with that. And so you can say doble L, right? Double L, doble L, E, G, A, R. And there you go. So we have the verb enseñar, and we're going to finish with this one. And notice we have an ñ right there. And so I want to throw that in there just for fun. So we have E, N, S, E, ñ, A, R. Now, enseñar means to teach. Good. And so to conclude here, we've got E, N, S, E, ñ, A, R. And again, that's enseñar, not enseñar, enseñar. Notice that sound there. Hopefully you found this video helpful on El Alfabeto, and best of luck on your quest to learn Spanish. Adios.